these guys a little bit of direction. So Mo, I'm sketching out on this just for them to follow. So it's going to go on this side of Vestal, where that X is.
Okay.
Right? Right off the edge there. So it's not
On the Milk Street end up.
on the Milk Street side, yeah. And then on Milk Street, there's on the new bike path, there's a crosswalk, a handicap ramp that was just recently put in on the bike path. Opposite Wynn Street.
There used to be two though. There used to be there, and then there was one up by the observatory. Did we get rid of that one? I wonder if that one's still there.
This one actually has a plan. Mike, you actually have the Milk Street bike path plans?
On this machine.
So one from that sidewalk to the handicap ramp. That's where you go.
There is no sidewalk.
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, up by the observatory, yeah, but the one he's talking about by Wynn Street, I don't even think it just goes right into Wynn Street, right?
It goes up to the top of Wynn Street.
Yeah. That's scary. Right by
No,
Mr. Miller's house there?
Yeah, that's observatory.
That's Mr. Miller's house.
Oh, okay.
This is the right-of-way plan. It's not the construction plan, but it's.
Where's the construction plan?
I don't think it's USB drive. That's the best I got on the machine.
Isn't that Mount Vernon right there?
No, that's Wynn Street right there.
Oh,
That's the
on the
corner,
other side
that's the
of the
corner.
street.
coming
Yeah,
up
so the
from
new
Wynn
bike
Street.
path comes
This is
in.
the cemetery right here.
Sorry, see that road, the hook road below on the cemetery? Yeah, let me see, kind of on it was. So right opposite this little road here is the crosswalk for the bike path. From the bike path over to Wynn Street.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going. I had to
So
go
it's
across
on this side, this upper side of Wynn.
Yeah, the observatory side of it.
Yeah. So I sketched them both on here just for a sergeant layout.
Such a scary intersection.
And then let me do one more. Sorry.
Yeah, that actually has it.
Yeah, that's where it's supposed to go. I think didn't we put it on and then took it off, or there was one there.
You paid over it.
Yeah, when they redid the road.
So it's going back where it was. So now with the
Now we gotta try to relocate it, right? Figure out where it is.
Well, you just go right off of that new handicap ramp,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
Oh, that's a handicap ramp?
there is brand new ramp there.
Okay.
Yep.
And there used to be one up further, like towards the observatory, but I don't think I don't know if it's there anymore. Yeah, I see that he was.
At the observatory?
No, I think that's the one they moved and put it over there, yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then lastly is South Beach Street. Can you go there for a second?
So,
Right there on the right.
Right at Harborview.
Oh, yeah, that crosswalk. That's a.
there's one there, yeah.
Yeah, but wasn't there issues with that one? Because of the angle?
I'm good with it because this is what the curb cut is.
Here's the problem is,
Okay.
curb cut's there, correct. It's going to the wrong sidewalk.
What do you mean?
The lady screaming that it's sending you to a corner of Harborview that has no sidewalk. There's no sidewalk on Harborview
Right,
on
yeah,
the
that-
south side,
That's right, where that house is getting lifted, there's a sidewalk on that side, but not this side.
not on the south
The
side.
south side.
So,
So we just skew up instead of skew
right
down.
into the utility pole, because there's about an 8-inch gap between the pole and the
Yeah.
corner.
Well,
I'm like, listen, we put the the crosswalk where, so all we have to do, I just
The
looked at
wider
it.
path of the beach is on this side.
I literally, yeah, we need a sidewalk. We need a sidewalk.
And only that, you can always do a crosswalk going across the end of Harborview to get them towards that side too. I mean, it's an extra couple bars, but it wouldn't be much, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Or would they go that way? Who knows?
This is one of those rare occasions that it's an old lady complaining instead of an old man. But she will not be satisfied with anything that we do. So, all all I'm saying is that we need to we need to refresh the one that is out there right now, and that needs to be done as part of this. So, I'm sketching out as is.
Okay.
So, while, help educate me, yeah.
Somebody will. You guys.
Is that where we go with the thermal,
Yeah, thermoplast,
blast?
yeah.
If you please one, somebody else doesn't want to be pleased. Somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody else. Yeah, that never quits.
Lastly was, right there at Harborview. Can
Yep.
you spin around, look at White Elephant? And help me understand, I guess, go back out onto, and go to the right, down the street a bit.
Up this way?
Yeah, just a hair. Help me understand the craziness. Is there a yellow painted no parking line on the west side that's 8 feet off of the curb to depict exactly where you can park inside of that?
Oh, actually, like the delineations, they used to do the T-bars, but I don't think.
No. There's a new line
Oh, really?
we didn't paint.
Oh,
Spin around, Mike.
it's not gonna be on this picture, I bet. This is probably old.
Yeah, that's an old one.
Yeah, this is 2016.
Someone's claiming that the cars parked on the right.
I can't get over
Where the
there.
hell are we now? Oh, you
This
can't
is
go over
Keystone.
there?
Yeah, I can't get over there.
So, yeah, see that Subaru right there?
Yeah.
So, apparently, people are saying that there was some photographs, and I swear it's along that alignment right there, that there's a line.
There's a yellow line there.
Yeah, but
It's
see that
faint.
white line?
It's faint. I think they
Good
blacked over it.
afternoon.
I think they blacked over it and the black wore off.
Okay. So someone's now, apparently there's an issue with people parking in there that with their tire over the line getting ticketed. And
Okay.
they were told, apparently they were
ground
told to ticket everyone over there. That wasn't parked completely within that line. That's what the CSOs were telling front office.
So they actually have a delineation like for parking, so it's literally off the curb 8 foot or whatever?
That's what I was told. Yeah, you can see it looks like it's blacked out.
This, is this blacked out?
It looks like.
Is that a blacked out line, or is that just?
Looks like a road
when they-
repair,
when
right?
they- Yeah, when they widen the road.
It could be a trench.
Yeah, it might be a seam.
Could be a
I
trench
see.
seam.
If that is under development, the sidewalk used to be over, on top of this, and they
Yeah.
moved the sidewalk back. So you can actually have parking. There never used to be parking allowed
Yeah.
on the side.
I'm not gonna touch it.
Now, this one's a 2008 view.
It was a,
It was blacked out. It was accidentally painted yellow the year after the road was widened.
yep.
And then they blacked out over the yellow line to correct the mistake, and just the black paint wore off.
Yeah, but this is a 10-year-old view right here. So
Yeah.
you can see.
That's a tight section too.
All right, Mo. So these are the three. Have Sergeant call me if you have any questions. So this one here, Mike, I think maybe we can meet with the chief, try to come up with a scenario that works. He's on vacation this week.
Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it that Curtis came up with? Do you remember? Didn't he throw ideas out to him at the meeting?
You wanted a stop sign on the left side of the road.
I know
It wasn't gonna work.
I actually have a sketch from that meeting that I cannot find, which is why we wanted to pull this together.
Okay.
I jotted a whole bunch of those ideas down. It never seemed like we came out of that with a full plan.
It's
A
not
lot
a
of
great place
different
for someone.
ideas, but yeah, it's hard to get them all together and get something that's gonna work there. It's tough. It's a tough intersection.
Yep. Harvey, have you met Stephen? Stephen Harvey Young?
Harvey Young. Is it PH?
Yeah,
PH, all right.
French spelling, Arsenal. You want to take a guess on that one?
ARSEANAUT.
Nope.
no. That's close to the Canadian version.
Said it with confidence, I didn't.
ARCNAUX. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But there is an ARSENEAULT. And a ton million variations of that.
And what's your capacity?
Stephen's
of this
our
thing?
new deputy director. He's
Oh,
replaced Chuck.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Can I see see myself in that yet. Yeah, there I am.
Doing the
Is that
video.
you?
That's
For
me.
real?
That really is me with the trekker equipment.
Nice.
See, now
Every
you know
once
what
in a
your
while I get
truck
something.
had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I see your maps in the back there.
No, that's the machine.
Oh, is it?
It was a giant backpack with a globe on, with cameras all
Oh,
over
right.
the
Okay,
circle.
cool.
Yeah.
I just walk around. The thing took a picture every 5 seconds. You just got to keep walking.
How many did people try stopping you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got? What are you doing?
What are you doing? What's going on?
Get away!
Can you stop and talk to me for a second? I was like, no.
So, you got to put the radiation sign on next time.
That was fun getting all
New
those.
Orleans, they do the same thing. They want to stop and talk to you, but usually they offer you a drink.
That could be dangerous.
Freshen up your hurricane.
Yeah. All right. Ray, thanks for the sign at the health department. They appreciated that. Yeah. And lastly, the refreshing the yellow lines on South Beach that we just repaved. The no parking area in front of, could we go look at that? In front of Cook's right there at the intersection, C Street. So any of those, we can write on there the yellow, if they can switch to yellow. It's that no parking right there opposite Cook's.
All right, that's
Right behind that car.
Yeah, right there. So it ends, there's a driveway,
Yeah, and
right
just
past the
there's a sign.
driveway.
You'll see the sign too. There's a sign.
So you
Oh, is that the
want
one?
to try to do the yellow lines tonight too? You said?
No, I just
Oh.
added to your list of things to do this week.
Okay.
They've been patient, and no parking in front of the cafe across the street there.
Yeah, that yellow line used to go the whole way.
Yeah, that goes
Rather than
from
giving it
C
all
Street
myself.
all the way, keep rotating, please.
How you doing, gentlemen?
All the way down to,
They both used to
Yeah.
go all the way.
yeah, they should.
Yeah.
So we'd have to, so that could be probably one night, do the thermo yellow on South Beach.
I love the sign. Everywhere. I mean, there's, I don't wish to interrupt, but I was just thinking to myself, all the bike stencils are worn out. You know, the sign I stopped.
Oh, that's only because they're meant to be, you gotta have the fade in look.
Oh.
It's like they've always been there.
So HTC is
What the
happy.
hell's this new sign? What do you mean? They've always been there. No, it's actually sad. It's crazy how fast they fade.
Where
Yeah.
so quickly?
We're actually we're ordering about 10,000 in preformed thermoplastic symbols to go back over that stuff.
Wonderful.
It was really just try to get it in. People are using it already. If you've noticed, it's awesome. It's now just a matter of making it more permanent.
Yeah.
Once it's up and running, like even the stuff on Cliff Road is all faded now. The Sharrows on
Yeah.
Cliff Road.
Yeah,
They've been there long enough now where if you didn't know they were there, they're faded out.
And not to drive the subject into the ground, but where Hussey Street and Gardner Street intersect, well, you know, if you're coming down Gardner from the monument, and Hussey is one way there,
Yeah.
so there's a one-way sign that is more or less hidden, you know, and then there was do not enter was there, and I happen to live on that corner. At least once a week we see a car go through it, and the other day I was weeding when there were 4 teenagers with a baby with a baby tricycle. We're about to start biking up there, and I said, no, please, go down India Street, because this is a dangerous street. They wanted to get to the juice bar. And so again, if that, now that the do not enter is just, more or less, you can't see it. And
Is
so
that because the signs
it's just
further
worn
up the
out.
street?
Well, the one-way sign, I do not enter, is sort of hidden, it's canted off to the side.
I'll show you.
Are you talking about a sign and also a marking on the street?
Yeah, the marking on the street is completely worn out. So,
There's Hussey in the.
Yeah.
It's right on the corner of India.
Doing a bit of a DPW meeting before the DPW meeting.
That sounds fun.
So-
It's the same. We don't usually have so many people at our meetings. It's kind of fun.
I'm like, like, nope, there's nothing, no
Right,
land.
it's right there, yeah, that's it. So,
Now let me go in.
yeah, so, this is our house, we were meeting right here. That's where, that's completely worn out, but.
The do not enter letters?
Yeah, the letters on the road, you can't see them anymore.
Yeah.
And, so I'm alarmed by how many people go up against the traffic there. And the one-way sign, the do not enter, is canted, so people don't seem to, maybe they're just deliberately ignoring it, I don't know.
All right, we can take a look at that.
Well, thank you.
It's sign fatigue. There's too many signs, you don't read them.
Yeah, we've been, it's interesting now that we're starting to take signs down, how people are starting to notice the ones that are left up.
Yeah, the bike paths is a perfect example. A bunch of signs that all the bikers ignore because there's too many of them.
Yeah.
And then they don't pay attention to the ones that are important, like across the, across
Well, how many,
Tom Nevers Road and stuff. Like
How many-
those are the ones you're gonna get killed at.
I always said I wanted to have somebody film it when I put up a bike path
Yeah,
stop.
I think we have.
It's comical, and that way you can go right by the wall and so on.
Oh, yeah.
Jacques Tagnall,
Still here.
sign, and then
This is Martin's Lane.
Because they used to ignore
Yeah,
it.
but I think it's not, if you ride the bike path, I counted them one time. It was like 20-something. There's 3 places you have to stop. All the rest is just a nuisance. So people just don't stop at every one anymore.
Yeah, you guys are all set.
Just,
Yep, thank you.
keep ignoring.
All the markings.
Look at that.
Lights on orange
I
Washington.
got a phone
Yeah,
call
well,
the
what's
other day
awesome.
from
So it's
friends of
like,
mine who live on
that's
it.
just cute.
And they say,
Yeah, you can hang out. You can hang out.
Yes.
you know,
And what are the trucks just driving up and down ruining it?
well,
Picture
apparently
of Stephen?
a national grid.
Stephen Armstrong is the new deputy director.
But it's been like that for
I've been
quite
so
some time.
excited.
It's just the national
It's
grid
enough
thought
out
made it
there.
worse.
I work
And
at
they're saying,
Remain.
what do we have to do?
remain in Nantucket. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
know.
Stevens met Vienna down at
Vienna,
at the Stop the Straw movie.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, but this,
I think I've seen
This
your
is the worst.
picture on the Remain website.
Well,
Yes.
I am on your website.
She's very
You're one
important.
of the few people who's probably looked at that website, so I'm impressed.
I was surprised they had I think 3 or 4 people in their profiles. And
I think there aren't very many of them, so I guess you should look at it.
That's the one hit this week.
If you're wearing him
I
right
never
now.
look
You
at the
might be.
analytics, because
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much
Where
unless
they come
there's
from,
something that
it's
we're in
the
the
same.
paper,
Something
or
going
that
on,
someone
yeah.
doesn't like what we're
And
doing.
It was
or
after
something.
the,
all sorts of local causes.
the straw movie got my attention. When it brought up Remain and it brought up
This front door, it's crazy.
brought up some other
The other
things.
part was,
So
Yeah,
I was
it's-
checking out
the
the
other
different
place is as
agencies.
bad as this.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, it's
Academy.
something the woman who
Yes.
They
started
built
our
a brand new
organization,
sidewalk
when
and
she's
within 2
very
days it
interested in
was
ocean
tough.
plastics, and she has
Right.
deals with it on a
$80,000.
worldwide scale that we do, but it's really kind of terrifying.
So Rolf, since I have you here,
I
I just,
started noticing everything on Facebook all of a sudden.
No, don't
This-
you, the straws are kind of a big thing.
Martin's Lane, I'm sure you're very familiar with it.
Jesus, gonna be a little late.
Or should we still do a meeting?
This one we're looking at in front of us.
Yeah.
Whenever Jason gets here.
Um,
And,
I would say this is the sidewalk people are complaining that was crushed by National Grid.
well, it was in pretty bad shape to begin with before National Grid just made it worse.
Yeah.
You didn't.
And friends of mine live on that street, Reg and Jane Haynes, and he was on the phone to me yesterday saying, please, what does it take to sort of have it repaired so that they don't have to worry that their friends are going to trip over them?
Yep.
The truck was down there
This,
sitting
I
there.
know the town manager's office reached out to National Grid, so I don't know where that is right now.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
What street
been
is this?
elevated,
Martin's Lane.
Okay.
And it's been like that for quite a while.
that's been, apparently it happened over the winter is what the people reported to us. So, that, it's been elevated above my pay grade.
Okay.
Well, this could be a street that you limit the weight of the trucks on, like we limited on.
No,
It's already
trucks aren't
limited.
supposed to go
No,
down.
it is, they're not
actually.
supposed
Oh my
to.
God.
No, they are limited there. I think there is a limit on width.
Yes, there is. I think National Grid was doing repairs there, but so they admit that they had drove up there and did some of the damage, but it was already in pretty bad shape.
Oh, there's no doubt, they're in a tough spot,
Yeah,
because, they're driving around a lot of these that, they're just not the best.
yeah. So here, we're looking, those pictures are from here where it starts.
Yeah, looking down towards
here,
Orange Street.
which is where their house happens to come onto there. This part is fine. And,
Yeah.
and they're sort of, they're good citizens where they come from. He's Haynes of Haynes Underwear, and they contribute to lots of good causes, and I'd be happy to have them. I think they contribute here, and so I was embarrassed, when he called up, and I went out there and took pictures earlier today, because I had no
There's
idea
no
it was
doubt.
this bad.
I had a conversation with someone about this, and basically, I said that I get the issue. We'll try to track down what they shared with us that there was some damage done over
Yeah.
the winter.
Yeah.
So we tracked it down through the permit process. But if let's just say this isn't unique. The damage is unique. The condition is not
Right.
unique.
Right.
And the sad reality is, the story right now is we're coming. There is money, but not for you specifically.
Right.
We're working our way from the critical places downtown out.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's not always the answer people want.
Right.
And frankly, it's never the answer that people
Right.
want.
Yeah.
But
The other option when we talk to National Grid is they should bring trucks that fit the island, not the other way around. And the same thing with a lot of these guys. I was promised my first go around on the fire department. The ambulances. Well, we'll have an ambulance that fits downtown. Don't worry. They're custom. We can order a custom one that'll be thinner and it'll fit us fine. And then a few years later, in comes this big monster that can't fit anywhere. So I just think that one of the things we should write in every single thing we send to National Grid or our own staff, is you've got to have at least one truck that fits the downtown. You can't, we can't change the downtown, but we can change the vehicles. They can get a vehicle that can do their work. They don't
I
need
know
to.
a lot of like Cape Cod Express, for instance, they recognized that if they wanted to take over the market share, they needed to accommodate the turning radius, and they built custom trucks with a 53-foot trailer, but with the rear wheels pulled forward for the wheelbase.
Exactly.
That wheelbase, because I
Yeah.
talked to Paul about that on the
So
buses.
you have to turn tighter,
Yeah.
and now they can get into a lot of places that others can't. So I think a lot of it is we could kind of go back to the market, right? The market's going to fix itself in the capitalistic society that we're in.
But it won't fix itself if they don't have to pay. If they pass the cost of their damage onto the rest of us, there's
With
no.
regard to weight, I would
There's
100% agree.
well, weights in width. There's no, if they smash into my building when they back the trucks up. If I don't charge them, if I don't catch them and charge them,
Yeah.
they don't care.
Yep.
So it's the
Yeah, we
same
see
thing with
that
the
a lot.
town. So that's, unless we're gonna actually charge them, they're gonna keep doing it. There's no, so.
Just so y'all know, I'm still waiting on Jason Bridges to get out of his meeting. I guess we're without Meg today too. Actually, stay home sick or something.
So Rob, you're still here.
Oh yeah,
Good, good.
so far so good.
Yeah.
I have this
at this
list.
meeting or in
I have this
Nantucket?
list
No, in
that I
Nantucket.
told everyone I was going to get done, so I got to keep working on it.
I met Rob when he first came to the island. When in fact we went out to have a look at we all went out to have a look at the railway track there and
Yeah,
talking about the
in-town bike path. I think
Yes.
that's where I first met a bunch of you.
Yeah, that was a good
That's right.
opening,
That's exactly right.
good opening session for you.
Yeah.
Did you give Steven something like that right off the bat?
Oh, well, he's here today.
I know, but that was nothing like that meeting.
Well, that was. That was
first
Matt.
day of my third
Who did I meet
First
there?
Matt, Linda
No,
Williams,
Oh, that's right.
It's been a few days.
Ian, Harvey Young, I mean, we circled around you.
That's funny. I don't remember that.
Erica was there. Oh, yeah, that was the good
Yeah,
one.
she was.
Oh, Nat Lowell was
Yeah,
there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
We
was,
were
I
looking
think it was
at
your
that.
second week on the job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
funny.
was good. And now that thing is awesome. People are just using it. They wouldn't
Oh
even
my
know it was
gosh,
there.
it's so beautiful,
It's just
that middle
like it's
section,
always been there.
so pretty.
Well, it's, the exciting part for me is that the middle part that's really intended to be a real impressive vista, which isn't, because of the exotic invasive species
Yeah.
there. The reboot of the Kansu Springs project is intended to address that and completely remove that, which would be.
Well,
incredible.
you know, and quite frankly, some Phragmites has been removed for when you come in from the bars, you know, like past the old Cumbies.
Sure.
And take a right. You can see much more towards the harbor than you used to be able to see there. I mean,
Yeah,
that
the
was
whole
all
area was a
solid.
forest
I mean,
area.
it was just.
I'm
you
talking
can-
like creating a pond
in Goose Pond.
That's
more
beautiful.
like it used to be.
Oh, yeah, that actually flows in and out
And so
instead
you
of that
have
full.
a fully
dump.
functioning coastal pond,
It will be beautiful.
which will go a long way to be able to limit that environment's ability to even grow that stuff.
Yeah.
So it should push it towards orange substantially, and we should carve it out enough in the front to be able to eliminate it in the front.
Yeah,
Well,
it is a
if
little
you
yucky
care to
sometimes.
apply to
It's a little yucky right
yeah.
now.
CPC, our grants, I think the window is the end of August.
So the whole project, I have to go back and see what the original design cost us through GZA, our consultant. When I came on board, there was too many other things to even discuss. It was in the permit process. So we were literally just waiting for permits to then put a shovel in the ground, schedule, or put the construction out to bid, once we get the permits in hand, because the Army Corps permits can take up to 2 years. It's tedious. So we got an email in September. So I was here in April. Email in September that said, hey, we got the permits came in. And that was the first time I heard of the project. So I was like, okay, the permits came in, what does that mean? And I looked at the plans and I'm like, I've been here long enough and seen this bike path come around and everyone loves it, but I'm not sure if what they're trying to achieve with this Kansu Springs project is really gonna be that worth it.
Yeah,
So-
but I just wanted to mention with CPC, we have given money. We have about $2 million a year to give to various projects, and we've given money to the Hummock Pond Coalition for their Phragmites
Yeah.
2 years running. And if you wanted to apply to us for eliminating those Phragmites, I'm sure that we'd look on it favorably.
Nice.
Yeah, and they use a drip method, and it's well documented.
All right, we have a quorum.
Well, no,
Sorry about that. Couldn't
No
get out
problem.
of the meeting downtown.
We've been looking at sidewalks and.
Cool.
So it's just a suggestion.
Good idea.
Well, when people have money to give away, right?
Yeah, I was late on purpose so that it would happen.
you don't have to ask me twice.
Exactly. No, I saw you writing that right down, and I get caught in that quick money.
All right, we'll call to order the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for June 20th. We have a quorum. Thank you everyone for coming. Approval of the agenda. For motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any public comment? See any? Jump right in. FY 2020 capital potential projects not currently listed in the CIP. Okay. Mike, did you want to go over the projects or the projects that aren't
Well, this
in there?
this is almost a continuation of what we had discussed last month. In the just looking back at the minutes on here, we had talked about the Newtown Road sidewalk and traffic calming project, as well as including the Orange Street bike lanes from Spruce Street all the way to the Rotary. Essentially, the construction. I think we do have design funding for that. So those were the two major projects. Dave Fredericks, that's what we're missing. Dave Fredericks had requested, and Rob is here, to have DPW kind of talk about the sidewalk portion of this, or if there's other sidewalk requests that we want to include. We do have in the planned $1 million for FY 20. I think what Rob is here to do is kind of just talk about the status of that and what he would recommend us considering for a budget for for the next fiscal year's request.
Yeah, I think Dave was saying, it'd be nice to know, he was just throwing out examples. Straight wharf in this, roughly what did that cost? So we can get a sense of what does $1 million do-ish downtown. I think that was some of his comments. Is that about right? Or, maybe,
I think so,
I
yeah,
wasn't
like,
here.
no, you weren't here. Okay.
yeah.
So we had a $2 million total, I guess, Rob, right? $2 million total. The phase one obviously was Broad Street, the Easy Street, the straight forward from Main Street area, and you know some of the legs of New Whale Street and Candle Street. The phase two portion was just rebuilding sections of Center Street on the section, India Street, and Federal Street.
So phase one, you said that's 2 million, and most of that's been done.
Phase one and two is $2 million total.
Oh, 2 million total, gotcha.
Yeah, and I would say we're not near, I'd say we're probably close to half done. But maybe even
For phase one.
less than that, because we have, phase one includes Lower Main Street, which hasn't been touched. What we've only done so far is the Easy Street portion, which is one side up to the bulkhead, and the straight wharf piece, and the place where they connect right there at the corner is not completed, across from Club Car. So we have to finish that intersection, go across the street and do Lower Main Street, and then pick up where we left off at the bulkhead and go north and do the rest of Easy and Broad. So what we've done so far is quickly approaching $500,000. So we still have a decent chunk of change. I think we'll easily come in, well, maybe not easily, but we intend to be able to come through. And I know it's not marked here, but when we continue down Easy, and we've now backed up, now that we got these public information sessions over the winter, it's very likely that, what's that side street, Mike?
Which one is this?
Opposite the Old North Wharf.
This is Cambridge.
Cambridge.
So it's very likely that we're going to be looking at both sides of Easy, going up to Broad from that point up. There's been, since people have seen what we've done, Robert's come out, Jonathan Raith's come out, everyone's sort of, hey, let's see what we can do to kick that sidewalk back into our property, or provide an easement of some sort, so that we can widen their side. I mean, they recognize that more people on the sidewalk
Yeah.
means more business.
Good for business, good
And
for
so,
safety.
all that stuff. So there's some lighting issues. It's a more complex issues that are dealing with utilities. We haven't had to really deal with electrical stuff yet for the lighting, but we'll have to on that other side. So there's more changes, and the concepts have come to light, I think, a lot stronger through the winter. There's still a long way to go to get where we need to get all those agreements in place to be able to proceed. So I think you're going to see stuff that's already ready to go proceed as soon as our contractor is able to. One of the things I've come to realize through my first year is just capacity. What can our contractor do in a calendar year?
Your 2 little windows.
So even if they're really pushing, and if we're clamoring to keep their sidewalk crew here, busy as busy as they can, they have other obligations. So it's an interesting dilemma to have.
May I ask you a question on what's the difference when I look at the key here that's the widening and then the rebuilding are both in phase one, fiscal year 17? So what's the, I feel like when you widen, you rebuild too.
We are.
So the red versus the orange it's just a semantic thing?
Yeah,
and
I
all
think,
of it's
I would
being-
say so. This is, I'll be clear, the successes that everyone's seeing now is my role is very small. It's literally just executing what planning has been pulling together for years. So, Mike could probably speak more to how this fundamentally came together.
Well, I was mostly curious when you said you were half finished. Would it include both of those phases of phase one for the $500,000, or it's just funny that they're two phase ones here.
Yeah,
And I just didn't know when you said there was about 2 million, did that include both phases one and phase two? It's just kind of curious.
I would say this,
Highlight the
that
widening.
there's a lot of, when we put out our annual construction bid, we get unit costs, unit pricing for various tasks. We have, over the course of the year, we've developed, mostly having to do with the reconstruction of South Beach Street, we've put together, we've engineered details now that the contractor is expected to follow, so that people can, even though we recognize that people drive on the sidewalks. And they drive on sidewalks with extreme loads, so we have to design, or we are designing, whether we have to or not, sidewalks that will, when they're reconstructed, will withstand the expected loads they're going to see. So we've started to incorporate that stuff with that and with crosswalks and the pavement sections as well. So the prices, we'll see. Right now, it's back out to bid for next year. We'll see if there's any changes to what the prices have been in the past. But I think the overall product is better because it's
looks great.
designed.
I mean, I can't even believe how great it is to walk.
But then
around.
it's also now, we're taking the conceptual plans and we're sort of field modifying them as we go. With
Macy Warehouse.
Well, yeah, so we're, sometimes you can get owners to the table. And we've had people during these outreaches come in, tell us what they think, give us not only their understanding of their frontage, but also in the area. And that's been fantastic. Other times, as much outreach as you can do, until you're out there actually working, these plans were not done at a level that would pick up every minutia and try to address certain things. So we had, for instance, the Macy Warehouse, the NHA came to us and said, hey, we would love for you to do the same thing you did for us over at the gift shop. We have ADA compliance issues, and while we could comply by getting people in the back, if there's a way we could do that in front. And again, we're sort of all in this together. And why wouldn't we spend some more money? Because I look at it this way, and this is completely honest truth from off island. The prices here are staggering to me. I can't even, it's funny money to me. And I have to work with the public's money. So if hopefully I can get this point across, because it's important for me to distinguish. The job has to get done. The work is important and it has to get done. But and we're doing it in, let's say, the most responsible manner that I can by having oversight and making sure that these things are designed properly to handle the expected loads, etc. The widths are there to handle the traffic. We tweak where we can. But the unit costs are so far in the stratosphere because of where we're at and who we're dealing with, etc. Like $500,000 in my mind should go to do most of this, and it's going nowhere. So it's like, and I told Mike this, or maybe Brian as well, like give us $1 million a year, because that's all we have the capacity to get done, and it'll start to really steamroll, and you'll see continued success throughout the downtown. I think the more we scrutinize the cost per whatever, or how far is this going to take us, we're going to lose sight of the bigger picture, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's something we deal with all the time and I've been dealing with it ever since I've been living here. So I can totally relate to that.
So if you had $2 million a year, you still wouldn't have the capacity to go and do it.
Unless we start really, we're not there yet, and we may get to a point where we say, yeah, we're really going to go hard on sidewalk improvements, we want to double what's going on here. I have not got a really warm and fuzzy feeling from our contractor that they're ready, willing, and able to double capacity. You know, I think we could find someone else to supplement or to do a separate project somewhere else. The challenge there is if we're working in sort of the places that we are, I am a lot of hands-on, as you've seen, and with everything going on, having multiple, it's great to have Stephen along now, and hopefully we'll have another deputy in facilities focused soon. We only have, as a town, and as a town management office and a DPW, a capacity to handle screaming residents and business owners at the same time. So the more projects we have going on, you know, again, how many phone calls can you return in a timely manner? Few. You know, I mean, there's a limit. So the footprint idea of disrupting someone's lives, you know, over a period of time, but then having them be able to see that come to an end and actually show an improvement, I think is at a point where it's working well. I definitely want to keep pushing and do more. I wish we could do it all, you know, snap your fingers. I'm just cautious of going at it too hard and being too disruptive, because frankly, I think spending the time necessary to look at the details, you get a better product, and you're able to spend the time with the interested parties on site to really get it right.
Macy Warehouse looks great.
One thing we're talking
In
about,
front of Macy Warehouse looks amazing.
thanks, and that's probably like version
It's
3.
incredible. It's
Version
incredible.
3, you know, talking about it. And it's funny because we've had, the proudest part of that for me is that we provided a brand new ADA accessible access way. We kept the historic stones and both trees.
Yeah.
Home run.
Yeah, it looks
Everyone's happy. Haven't heard a single peep. And that was like, for me, really a sensitive area. So that's just, it's awesome. We want to, as soon as we can, start a small Upper Main Street project around 3 bricks and that with the bricks end, and start to do sidewalks now in a very through the summer. So I'm cocky after 1 year. So I'm looking to reasonably manage a very small site so that we can make progress through the summer to gear up for the cobblestone project that needs to happen from Pleasant to Winter, and then work our way down Main Street with sidewalk first, then cobblestone to follow. And that sort of will join up with everything that's happening down here. So there's a lot to deal with, and summer, obviously, everyone's already conditioned to shut her down any day now, and that's it. Like, don't even ask after that. But I think we're going to try to push that envelope a little bit, respectfully, to try to accomplish what's needed. It's a mess up there.
This is a good context for us. You know, just seeing like, okay, 500,000, and just kind of get a sense of where it is. So thank you. You guys have any questions for Rob on this?
Well, is 500 going to do Newtown? Is that going to?
The sidewalk for Newtown?
Yeah, is that going to be that? What's going to happen there?
So for Newtown, Dave had reached out to me a long time ago, and I think one of the new goals through the strategic plan for the select board, I had this discussion with Libby yesterday, was one of the goals was to get a accessible walk from 2FG, 4FG area to downtown. And so a combination of, you know, Fairgrounds to Old South to Milestone or to Orange Street, thank you. And then as, sort of an alternate route would be Newtown to Sparks, and then through Midtown or Mid-Island. So I think it's probably gonna be wrapped into a bigger, broader project. And that is likely gonna be a separate capital item than these sidewalk improvement projects.
Might be a good idea to have another portfolio like we did with the Old South Road, and you say, bike pedestrian connection from Mid-Island to downtown. I don't know, some kind of bubbly warm tagline for it. Say, call it that, and it's a portfolio of individual projects in town, Newtown sidewalk, traffic calming, Orange Street, and just have a $1 figure to associate to, I don't know, 5 small projects, something like this.
It could also be something that could be added to the Sparks Avenue sidewalk project as just a simple, very simple add-on, based on its proximity and,
But this building completely changed, this building and traffic completely changed the use on that street.
Sure.
And the fire department's gonna double that at least. So I think kind of that should be finished by the time the fire department is in place. So however we have to do that.
We did talk about it at the capital program committee.
Yeah.
Last week, we put it on there, and we put just a $1, just as a placeholder. We don't have a price yet, but that's, I don't know, I'm assuming we're gonna approve it at Capcom.
Which would be great, because in fairness to the people that live there, their lives changed incredibly as soon as this was built.
It's the new cut too.
Oh, the roundabout in this place, that became the cut through. There's a school there, there's a bunch of people that live there year round, it's become a raceway now, so.
okay.
Any other thoughts, comments on phase 1, 2, phase 10?
I just wanna see how long the roads last. That's my thing, I can't wait. I hope that the sidewalks, I hope they hold for 20 years, 30 years.
Well, if you've walked them recently, you'll notice, like, I'm screaming at people to get out there with stone dust right now, because all this stuff has definitely seen settlement from use and from rain, and they need to be filled.
Yeah.
They need to continue to be filled up. They will continue to settle, and you gotta keep them filled, or they're gonna start loosening up and look like the old crap.
I do like that you're looking for, Rob and I had many conversations about ADA compliance in a historic town. And he is professionally friendly with the guy who runs that, Mr. Tom Hopkins. And so Rob knows what could happen if Tom Hopkins came here and really wanted to drop the hammer. But if we show that we keep trying to pick little things off as much as we can, whether it's for this, like seeing, impaired that we're doing, it looks like a brick.
Or the 88
88 brick.
The brick,
For the,
those kind of things,
yeah.
Macy's, Club Car, we just have to keep picking them off. It shows we're putting effort towards it.
Sure.
So that's you guys. have done
So
good
just a
job with
distinction, so Club Car was actually done privately, but it was almost seamless. The timing was actually pretty amazing. I was actually in a training in Boston next to Tom's office, so I always stop in whenever I'm there, just to say hi. Stopped in, told him where I moved to. He was thrilled. He's been out here a number of times and knows it very well. And off the top of his head, he starts naming off businesses that are already like on notice from his office, and he remembered him verbatim of the ones that he had worked on with me 8 years ago in Spencer. I knew it was like photographing, so it was actually pretty. It helps remind me how good that guy is and how attention to detail he is, because you really do have to pay attention. So he said, Club Card, they have a June 1st deadline, and this was like, we were talking in May, and I'm like, what? I said, okay, I'm glad you told me that, because they haven't even contacted our office. So it was like the next day, I got a phone call, like, hey, Club Car wants to talk. I went down, met with him, and then I met the construction manager, and I'm like, I'm glad this is all happening now, where we're mobilized and we're working out here, because we want to drop the whole sidewalk in front of Club Car on the corner there, and had they just gone in and built their ramp, which they have a waiver for, so they could have put it on whatever angle was necessary to meet the existing curb. But now, here we're coming in, the next year, dropping the curb probably 3 inches, and we would have had to pay for reconstruction of their entire ramp to bring it down to where we want it to go. So it worked out. Everything sort of happens for a reason.
Is it normal for businesses to do it themselves and to have the office, the ADA compliancy office or whatever it is, that's looking at that, go around and have people do it on their own? Or are they required to work with you? Because that would have been
No, so
a waste of money
generally,
and time and holding up traffic in a busy area if it had to be redone next year.
sure. It's usually up to us to review a package that comes to us. If they're pulling a permit from us, it's our obligation to review it and provide comments back. You would hope that people would come to you very early in the process and say, hey, we're doing internal renovations to the building that are triggering a ADA review, which is then triggering this ramp system. So, we looked at the ramp and the sidewalk we're tying into as a mess, or whatever, and,
You'd hope that would happen.
yeah, it doesn't happen. It does not happen. Things happen overnight, and everyone says, how did that happen? They didn't get a permit. Well, okay. It's such a go-go atmosphere right now. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's such a go-go atmosphere that it's, they're waiting for forgiveness as opposed to permission.
So, Mike, if there's any other questions on this or comments, we can move on to any other projects that's on CIP.
Well, that's the sidewalk, we talked about sidewalk improvements, I guess we'll include the 1 day, and I guess for next fiscal year, and try to keep that program going. Again, the Newtown Road sidewalk and traffic calming will be added along with Old South Road. Those really, I think, are the only other wall limit. Excuse me, yeah, that was, no, it's already on there, excuse me, I lied, it's already on there.
You got a question on where Walnut was on that, and then people were saying, is Walnut really gonna be built before Tom Nevers? That's questions I've got. So I'll look into it.
The federal government's throwing a bunch of money at it.
Right. Is that what it is? So that $3 million is?
Yeah, I'm speaking in jest, but yeah, it's actually the truth.
I thought they were just doing the design.
They're funding the design, and they believe there could be other grants for construction once it actually goes from just conceptual to actually having preliminary plans and then having final construction plans with all the Concom permitting, because it's going to be a ton of Concom permitting.
And that's Fish and Wildlife, part of the federal government that has that.
Exactly.
Those grants.
Division of Fish and Wildlife. Yeah.
Because it's access to their property.
Yep.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a bad deal. I don't know what the Walnut community thinks, but I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, well, I got to give Patty Argavine a call back. I think she said there was about an $80,000 match that was needed to marry up with the $280,000 federal design money. Is it Kathy Pensky?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the name?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm. Don't write that down. But apparently, she's working with her to actually have a private source for the matching funds, because we just don't have it right now.
Right. Good.
Do you know if my brother Robert knows about that? He's out on the Walnut Road, and he would love to organize or help people come up with money.
I'll mention that to Patty, if that's all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Tell Patty to get a hold of Robert Young.
Okay.
If they need money from people in Walnut, we'll talk them up.
He knows all those guys.
75,000?
That's a dinner.
They got in their wallet.
Sorry to sidetrack us on the Walnut. But we keep you moving there, Mike.
So we're adding Newtown, and what was the other one?
Tell
like
Robert
you
that
said?
Harvey said he was gonna write a check to 80 grand.
Yeah, start with 80.
I don't think, we weren't adding anything else besides Newtown.
What did you say, Newtown?
Newtown and the Old South Road.
Old South.
Excuse me, Orange Street.
Right, yeah,
I'm being
you
wishful.
said two. Okay.
In the Orange
So-
Street,
The Orange Street, the lanes, basically the lanes in front of the Marine Home Center,
Right.
that whole construction. We do have, I believe it's 150,000 for design, just the construction part of that. Right now, we assumed it was gonna be federal sources for that, but the way with all these intersections and stuff competing,
Mhm.
it's probably faster just to do it locally.
And we're gonna just try to do a little bit of due diligence, talking to people about how long it would really take to do a study and move those poles across the street. Right now, the utility poles, there's about 5 of them, 5 or 6 that you'd have to move, that are all kind of part of the system. You'd move them on the opposite side of Ring Home Center, move it back a little bit, which would give us room to widen the road a little bit for lanes. And that's not a fast process, right? Dealing with utilities. They have to do, we have to pay for them to do the study, correct? Is that how it works?
Probably not to do a feasibility study, but for the engineering, yes.
Right.
To do some of the engineering, and it's not, that if it's not a federal project, then they don't get reimbursement, so there'll have to be a negotiation.
Right. And that's a year process?
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
To move 5 telephone poles.
Let's get the engineering to,
yeah, it's a lot.
probably a year and a half to actually move them, if not 2 years.
The other thing they've done,
That's doing proper bike lanes on those areas, different from what we did with the marking this year, right?
Yeah, it's actually widening the road, which you can't do without the utilities
Yeah.
moved in some way.
I have a little update from the DHB friends.
Okay.
when they move them, we wanna make sure they're not moving them into another sidewalk.
Right.
You know, like that, like, and the other thing they've done on Orange Street, further up, you go past the old Cumbies, up to the next block, and you look, and they've added, secondary poles next to the existing poles, so they've completely blocked the sidewalk in 2 or 3 places. And that was a relatively new occurrence. I think they're putting more weight on the poles, so the poles can't handle it, and they've, so go for where we have.
The double poles that are out there now, my understanding is that those are there. The new poles that have been installed are intended to
Replace
update-
those?
Yeah, replace the old poles.
When
They're
they
going
repl-
through like it's called a hardening program. So they put in the new beefier poles. and
But when they
take the
do
old-
that, why do they have to put them in the sidewalk?
Well,
They're putting a new pole in, why do they have to stick it dead center of the sidewalk?
because when you authorize them to put a pole in, they have 3 feet within that pole to drop a new one when
Yeah.
they replace it. If it gets hit, or if they actually go to replace it like this, they don't have to come back to you for permission if they stick within the 3 foot.
Now, if we didn't authorize it as a select board, if we just said, you know what, you gotta get these off the sidewalk if you touch them, can we say that?
It's a good question. I don't know.
And what leverage do we have? I mean, those are the things I keep asking at the select, board-
Yeah.
at the selectman level.
Well,
and I
next
don't
time,
really hear that.
maybe it's not National Grid's permit rep that shows up. Maybe it's National Grid, the big wigs who are coming for the L8 distribution discussion, to have that with them. Because the license that you're signing and voting on, I should say, is authorizing them for future maintenance to basically put it anywhere within that 3 foot radius. So,
So if we could attempt to amend, we need some advice, because we should amend that, so we could be slowly making improvements instead of just continuing to do the same
the
dumb
biggest
stuff.
challenge we have is when they do single pole at a time, Matt, is from a purely engineering standpoint, they have this tension on all those
Yeah.
poles. So to throw one out of line, it doesn't work.
Change the tension there.
They have to keep the line, because if it comes out of line, all of a sudden, one or others need guys
Yeah.
to be able to hold them properly. And then, of course, they're holding a lot more equipment than the original poles were
Right.
intended for. That's why they're changing them out mostly. Once they move one, though, everyone's equipment has to then
Move. yeah.
move, and that is complex, not complex physically, but scheduling. I'm off this pole, okay, great, now I need to notify, and they supposed to have an internal process between all the utilities to make sure that keeps going. I've never seen that to be the case, so we need to reach out and inform and remind, and we do, to make sure that they stay on point, and they notify those other utilities that, hey, I'm done, you can now schedule your work to move everything over, and then when everyone's off, circle back so then they can schedule to pull the poles, and then at least you don't have that impediment in the sidewalk any longer. it's a process, and it's not a very good one.
Yeah, I wonder, all I'm saying is, I would love to know what leverage do we have to improve the process? Because when we talk about it, all I ever hear is, nothing you can do, there's nothing we can ever improve, it's always gonna be the way it is, and I don't accept that. I
Yeah,
just think that
I'm with
there's gotta be a better way.
The only time I've seen it improve is sitting down with all the utilities at the table.
Yeah.
And to me, right now, it's emailing them all simultaneously. Like, hey, this was reported, I don't care whose it is, someone go figure it out and fix it.
Yeah.
That's the wires we saw on Washington Street and everywhere, Cliff Road. It's insane. I mean, it's insane, the amount of loose wires or old left wires that are just hanging there, waiting to catch someone walking or riding a bike by.
I think that's something that you and I could try to push, a broker, or try to figure out.
I think we've gotta look at it from both angles, though. If we can do it with a meeting, if DPW can push from that angle, and
Is
if they have a,
road distribution an issue? Problem?
We don't get a lot of it, they say.
Yeah, the L8 project is basically trying to create a new circuit, different connection, but it's going through a pretty sensitive part of town. So now we're trying to find an acceptable alignment.
But that may be the
Is that
chance.
be underground?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They probably want to keep that one until they come to a solution with the underground and then back to you or something.
or if they're not making this one large enough to carry, now would be the time to say, let's make it large enough to get rid of the other one. If they, or whatever it is.
Yeah, but they're talking about going to, what was it, 45-foot poles?
Yeah, that was,
Or 55-foot poles?
that was their alternative. I don't know if it was our alternative. Well, I know it wasn't our alternative.
That's a huge hole, isn't
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's very tall.
That would be great.
I've gone more than a few polls, that's very, yeah.
it? I mean, my
Very
God.
You're doing this
The best
while you're
photos
working
made.
on it. Huge poll, isn't it? It's not fun.
So no, we can, the three of us, or we can figure something out on that. 'Cause Rob and I had the same conversations. How do we bring that in line? It's not easy, but we can do it. Can be done.
Anything's possible.
Yep. Anything else on the capital projects? Your thoughts or questions? Barb, you got anything brewing?
No, I would just ask about, I see, the couple roundabouts are on here, and I don't know if you need more moral support in town, or you got another meeting coming up soon?
Thursday night, it's funny you asked.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, is it tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Mike did a great job last night at the school committee,
Oh, good.
walking into a charged up lion's den.
Yeah.
And I thought, he did a great job. It's the first meeting that I've been here, that I kept my mouth shut the entire time.
You didn't say anything?
Not a word,
Come on.
not a single word.
But you were there for backup.
I was there for backup,
Is that-
and,
To carry out the dead
I'm
body.
telling
Because of
you,
you?
nope,
You tried to-
no.
Okay.
But the new poster boy for the two intersections near the school is none other than Joe Torme,
Joe Tomei.
who is a custodian with the school, who acts as crossing guard. The whole custodial staff does crossing guard duty. And Joe was actually recently hit by a Ford F-150 doing his duty. He's since recovered, but was there as the only,
Well, I was there.
well, I know, but the only in favor of the roundabout concepts than anyone in the room.
Really?
Yeah. I think there was a couple that were very, very quiet, didn't say a thing, that thought it was good
So
ideas.
we're looking at
Uh,
Four Corners
yeah.
and Bartlett Road? Were those the two being discussed?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was fairly unanimous, the school committee as a whole.
Well, that's it. So I think the other part was, we weren't there for that part because we left after the presentation. But I was told that the recap at the end of the meeting was that the select board should be getting a clear message that no one in the room tonight spoke in favor of the roundabouts, which was not true.
Yeah, not sure.
The guy who was hit by a car does. That'll do that to you. Being run over tends to change your mind.
Yeah, safest option, yeah, I vote for that one. But, and he actually drove home the points that Mike was trying to make, which was essentially Surfside is a straight shot. and a roundabout forces you to slow down because of the slight curve that it puts into it.
Their argument is, you want stop signs.
Okay, so, and I mentioned this to Mike after the meeting. Again, I did not open my mouth during the meeting. After the meeting, the stop condition that everyone's asking for is achieved through the crosswalks, right? A stop sign is equal to a crosswalk in Massachusetts. It is the law that you must stop at a crosswalk if it's occupied. And if it's not occupied, then the flow of traffic continues. So it's beneficial because you're getting the best of both worlds. They're clamoring for, and I think we're close to, there's a possibility of consensus. Not that we need it, or, but it's helpful to have everybody sort of on the same page. But the crosswalks in a roundabout or near a roundabout serve the same purpose as a stop sign would, and I think that's just a message that's not really clearly being understood yet.
People don't stop for crosswalks, I guess, with them.
But they do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they do. They stop for crosswalks here where they don't off island very often.
People really stop.
Yeah, it's in the DNA here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's a handful of, still a handful that don't though.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
There's
I was
always-
gonna say,
and that's the
I've
scary
been in a
part,
couple
when they
recently
don't.
No, they didn't stop. I'm like, excuse me, you don't see me standing here?
Yeah, but
Think of going through.
if you look at the whole bigger picture,
Yeah,
somebody
no.
who comes from off island is like, wow, everybody stops for people.
I did notice that.
There we go, that's nice.
Doesn't, yeah,
That's
New
nice.
Orleans, no, you're gonna go through a crosswalk.
There was a great graphic, I think one of the lady that was DOT or someone that had a graphic at the first meeting, that just showed at a four-way stop,
The conflicts.
where you gotta look around to
Yeah.
try to figure out where cars are coming from.
You would think that a 75% reduction in conflicts would resonate with
But-
people
but
looking
the
for safety.
The
Yeah.
anti-people don't even wanna look at that.
Yeah.
They don't wanna see that,
Yeah.
like, that right there, like, when I'm driving through those places now, like, I get to the four-way stop, and it was like, okay, so if I'm a pedestrian, where am I looking? Cars are coming from every direction.
Yeah.
I go through the roundabout, they're moving, but they're not coming from as many directions. And it's also not gonna stop anyone from ever having a fender bender or maybe ever having an accident. There was that argument too. It's like, I hear people say, well, is this gonna eliminate anyone ever having anything go wrong?
No, but Mike answered that question that came from somewhere, and said, no, but we have statistics that show 15 accidents at the Sparks intersection, and now in the past 2 years, 2. So we statistically have proven that the roundabout is
That
a safer
graphic.
alternative.
That
Yeah,
would be
that's
nice
very
if that
helpful.
were out more, or if someone could try to explain it, if you need to the naysayers. I mean, they're gonna show up with their pitchforks and torches.
Makes a good tile pen
Maybe I
too,
should
for
save that on my
traffic
phone for
engineers.
about
Yeah.
So, I have a question, Mike, which is, did the elm tree come up at all? Because I've had several people.
Are you suggesting we cut it down?
Totally. No, I'm not. And I've had several people express a great deal of concern.
Oh, yeah,
And
that was
I-
a
There's no need
highlight.
to, there's no
Yeah,
concerns.
Okay.
I think it's evolving now to where even if you do work within 15 feet of the tree, it's going to kill the tree. So I think that gets a little kind of.
Well, I did refer them to alternate two, the plan that you gave us, so.
For all the options, the tree stays.
Every
Yes.
single one of the
Every-
options.
every one.
option.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So,
Until
we're all
it
preaching
dies.
the choir here.
Well, the one thing I will say on the roundabout issue is I'm not so sure about a good-sized roundabout at the Four Corner section near the swimming pool. And the reason I just don't think I think we're still, that's like the edge of the downtown, the urban downtown. And I think that we should be thinking about channeling and part of why we're doing this is because that's the truck route. Well, I don't think the truck route should be along that route. I don't think it should be going up by the old mill and along there. It's too thin already. There's been too many, serious accidents there already. We should be thinking bigger and moving them to Bartlett and out around some other way. And I've talked to Right about that.
It's interesting how things come together. After our discussion yesterday, I attended the Roads and Right-of-Way last night, and they took, is it Williams Street,
Yeah.
right down there that we talked about?
Oh, there's Saratoga Lane.
No, what connects
Williams Lane, that little
Williams,
one.
that
Pleasant
connects
Sparks.
The one that connects Nantucket to,
When,
Win.
or,
Win.
There's
No,
Win,
further
there's,
down.
there's Win, then there's,
Vestal.
Millbrook?
Millbrook.
Millbrook.
Millbrook's
Thank you.
the one, yeah.
So Millbrook was taken off the table.
Yeah.
And Win was something that I threw out there as possible, because we're now entertaining making that public for the complete length of it, as a possible alternative to Quaker, because that circle up there, what is that?
Caton Circle.
Caton Circle?
Yeah.
Caton Circle is, until you take the house on the corner, on the western side, and are able to have enough room to put in a true traffic circle, you cannot, we're not gonna be able to move bodies to widen the Quaker Road circle, Quaker Road Nantucket intersection. Can't soften that curve enough to be able to.
And why we would be trying to make that sort of stuff in our historic core is beyond me, which is why I still think we've got to find some way to do it further away.
So if we did that, like I said, if we pan over, yeah, so Win now becomes the alternative, but it's off of Milk and it's coming through like either Vestal or Bartlett, and you gotta come up, and then you could design Win to be able to swing in and take the turn on Nantucket to go back out. But we're having larger discussions too,
Yeah.
obviously, about the future of the landfill and the solid waste. You know, the thing that Nat always says is, why do we have this facility, like that far out?
And in a wetland.
If you really look at the truck route and you follow the truck to see what it has to do, it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is insane.
So the argument is to just from argument's sake, move the dump in the industry lane back by the airport by New South Road.
Yeah.
Like if you could just snap your finger, why is it out there, way out there? Why is it in an industrial area?
Well, New South Road was backed up as far as the eye could see yesterday at 4 in the afternoon, so we better start talking
New
about
South?
making it. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, Old South, I think.
Yeah, I'm talking about New South behind the airport.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would be right. Yeah.
So I just want to move us along to the next item, if that's okay, everyone. So I got an email last week or 2 weeks ago, I forwarded it to Mike. Renewal for the bicycle-friendly community designation. That was one of the first initiatives that we took as when BPAC, when we formed this advisory committee. And it was a good 6 months of us working on this. Mike did a ton of work because they asked so much information.
Yeah, it was
But it was really
huge
good
application.
to think through all that. So what do you guys think about renewing this? And did you go through it, Mike? Does it look?
I tried to. I couldn't log in.
Oh, you couldn't?
I couldn't remember who. I think it might have been you that set up the account initially, because I used my email and all this, and it wouldn't let me in, so we don't recognize you as a user. And
This is about 5 years ago?
I feel like you ran it, Jason, I think,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
probably have the login.
Okay. All right.
The email is to jason@nantucketbybike.com.
That's a hint.
I didn't try to log in. I didn't try to log in.
No, no,
I'm just saying, did you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you, just from what you read here.
I tried to. I clicked some of these links and tried to follow the renewal process, which is a little different than the application process. So renewing is supposed to be a little bit more streamlined, but there's some new questions. I just couldn't get into the account, so I think I have to work with you. Maybe outside of this meeting, I'll just.
Yeah.
I'm a bike guy, so this might be an odd question, but what does this do for us? What, as a community, does it help us get money? Does it get us a cool sign to put up by the tree sign down on Broad Street?
We were promised some money originally, weren't we? That it
No funding. It's
put us-
mostly bragging rights and advertisement, and
doesn't put
and,
us
you know,
up a list for funding for bike paths or anything like that?
It doesn't hurt, but it's not a prerequisite for any type of
Right.
pool of funds. It's bragging rights, and if nothing else, because we're listed as a silver community. There's only a few other ones in the entire Commonwealth. Cambridge is pretty good. They have a good designation, but as far as the rest of the communities in the country, like we can always say, like the community compact, there's a lot of other programs throughout the state where they ask you questions, are you a bike-friendly community? Yes, we have a silver designation, and maybe that'll give you allotment of funds in another program because you're one of these smart communities type of thing. But there's nothing really directly linked to this that we'd have access to. It's mostly just an attribute that we can be proud of, and perhaps it factors into some scoring and some other programs.
Do you remember what was keeping us from being able to achieve gold status?
Yeah, I should have sent that to you. They gave us this little sheet of everything we were good at and how to get to gold. Right? Platinum is the top.
Okay.
And only, I think Cambridge was platinum, Boston was gold, and Arlington and us, and I think that was it, silver. There was only, we were definitely top of the list.
Yeah.
And I'll find that.
Okay.
Most of them were things that we can't do in a historic town.
Yeah.
There was-
Like bike shares.
I thought the in-town, though, the bike path out from downtown out was one of the things. So we're making an effort on that.
Sure. It was bike storage.
More
it
bike
was-
racks.
I just want to throw something out since I'm here and have the audience, if I may. The green lane designations that you've seen off-island, mostly in cities, is that going to fly here? Is that something we even want to go down?
Working with the VHB guys on the plan that they did for you, this short-term one, or this immediate one, they originally had a couple of those green things.
For the
in there.
sharrows?
Not really the shows, but I think they had green, when I first looked at the plan, and help me, Mike, if I'm wrong on this, but I think it was Washington Street across to the new bike path. They were gonna try to really make that visible, and I think they also had talked about green potentially into the rotary to get people through more safely if they didn't wanna do that sort of convoluted crossing the bike walks through, for people just to feel like they were confident to ride right through the rotary to get over to Milestone. But I think we told them that would
Too
probably
soon.
not fly,
Yeah.
so just let's take those out for now. I had one version of the plan had some green in it.
I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. I personally am ready to take on that battle, even if it's gonna be 10 years before we get it. Not in the core district, but Rotary,
What does it entail? Explain it to me. I don't
just
think.
green paint, on like a bike lane. Just green paint, like you see in the cities. Like I'm okay
I
with
took some pictures.
with going there
I'm more
for.
for it because anything that raises awareness, as far as
Yes.
I'm concerned, makes it safer for bicyclists. So,
Right. Doesn't have to be on
I'm
Main
totally-
Street
Right,
or on
right.
Center Street where it's
Right.
paved. Doesn't have to be there.
But, yeah,
Oh, I see, like,
so,
Exactly.
Now,
When I travel, I
striking.
take pictures of all
It's
those
great,
things.
it definitely does
Yeah.
all of that. It
Yeah.
raises
Yeah.
lots of awareness.
that was
Right.
Can I ask,
right.
can I ask why you brought that up?
Yeah, because I'm curious where everyone in this committee specifically feels about this.
Geez, we just got sharrows.
I
It
know.
took forever.
See, and that's it, so.
It took
That was a
forever,
battle.
so we should
that's how we
start,
should
With
start.
who?
we
With
should
who?
start trying to get
Can we-
there.
It's
Yeah,
historic.
so
People.
Rob's face when he said getting Cheryl was a battle.
I'm shocked.
It is. You should be shocked. It is shocking.
So, and so this is the good news is, like, I don't necessarily fight those battles. Like, when I finally get the orders to go and get it done, like, I just plow forward. But you clearly have been working the channels to get permission to go forward, which is, I did not know that. So that's.
Green paint would be a big step, and we might, I think, a new rotary, if that was to pass, we were to get a new rotary, that might be a way in, right? It's safe, there's cars.
The centerline reflectors came in with the Milestone Road resurfacing,
That was a big deal.
and that was kind of a new thing that it kind of took off, and now they like
But
makes it
who
say
has jurisdiction on the green? I mean, arguably no one.
It's just political.
I know it is, and if
Yeah.
it were in front of my house, maybe I wouldn't like it either. So, so people who have to look at it might not like it, but I don't think, correct me, Mike, if I'm wrong, but who has jurisdiction if it's a safety issue? But the VHB engineers couldn't believe that
Yeah.
it was, like, are you kidding me?
And it is
This
a
is
new
the safe way to
phenomenon.
mark these pinch points.
It's new for the country. So just saying, well, you should be, why haven't you been doing it? Well, it's very recent that this became the standard to use. It's just a lot of
Last 6
people.
years, 10 years?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and honestly, red is the standard color that's been used forever in Europe, and just they couldn't find a color that worked in America because red is fire lines. So finally, green was finally picked, and again, it's trying to get assimulated in. I think we're notoriously late to the.
You
the
go
game
to
on
Denver
assimilation.
and Boulder, and they're everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of
Really
the new markings are,
they just got the bike lanes 2 or 3 years ago, and
In New Orleans?
It's been a pain, but people are adjusting, they're starting to adjust.
But what I noticed just in doing these recent markings, the stencils that we bought 5 years ago, that we've been using to put the totally outdated. They're double or triple the size now. Stuff you see out there now, the Sharrows,
Yeah, they're small
they're
compared
like
to.
half the size of what they're supposed to be.
Is that right?
So the new ones that are coming, that are in thermoplast, I'm telling you right now, they're gonna make a striking entrance.
Good.
to the island.
They should, everyone in the car and everyone on the
Wonderful.
bike should know that
Yeah.
that's what that's saying. I mean, I've been at meetings where people are like, what's a Sharrow?
Yep. Hear it all the time.
Let's start over and explain to you what that is.
Yeah.
That lets you know what's going
Yep.
on.
And so, again, we get our license, we have to take that training class, and we go through, and we understand the rules of the road that day, and then you drive until you die, right? And you don't have to go back to a retraining class.
right.
Meanwhile, training classes, the MUTCD is updated annually, and there's all kinds of changes, You go off island and look at traffic lights and the different changes that have happened with traffic lights. It'll blow your mind.
Phew, we don't have to worry about that here.
No.
Can I go back to the, this
Silver?
silver award? I think one of the things that it did, it gave, especially when we first formed this committee, of kind of where we are compared to other communities. What we do really well. We're like, oh, we're not that bad. Sometimes it's,
You're
so
absolutely right, yeah.
you get caught up in it, like, well, it's the end of the world here, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad. We got silver. Most places don't have it. And it just kind of said what we're good at, maybe what we're not good at. What more data do we need that they were asking for? Mike had to do a lot of work, like, oh, that data's out there somewhere, and he had to get it. So it really kind of gave us, like, here's where we're at right now in bikes compared to the rest of the world. Here's what we can improve on. And so I think to do it again and update it, if it's not a ton of your time, and we'll figure out how to get in there, I think we should go forward with it.
Do you recall where your passport was? No?
I can try it real quick.
All right.
What are some
We'll
of
work
your
on this
other
offline.
I'm curious.
You were gonna ask him, weren't you?
Just Nantucket?
This is-
1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5.
you're looking at the.
Oh, password?
This is the bicycle community.
Yeah, the
bronze,
Seaboard.
silver,
Yeah, the
diamond.
Seaboard. Oh, there's even a diamond. You just pulled it off to show, it'd be curious, yeah, it'd be
Go
interesting.
under the League of American,
Yeah.
bike they go, yeah.
Well, yeah,
so
that was
they are-
pretty
they-
awesome to
you
get
have
silver.
kind of a grid.
And they did lay out, like, here's what you can do to improve, which was a template we were using to say, oh, yeah, let's
It
get a
would be
couple
interesting
Sharrows,
to
let's
see.
get a couple lanes.
Yeah, see if between when we got it and now, if, you
There's
know,
a
how
lot
many,
more
how
bike
many
parking in
steps
town
that
than
we've,
there was.
we've
There's
jumped
a
up
lot more
on.
bike racks, all those
Yeah.
bollards are in now, I think.
They did a
Well,
lot
I
of
don't
work.
know about all of them, we're getting more.
Yeah.
But they did a lot of population, how many people bike, and all the stats that you have, and accidents. I mean, they looked at everything. It was a really big picture.
Everything's not engineering,
Yeah,
so
maybe
it's
we can
about
get
the
rid of
legalities
the,
of biking to law enforcement, education, course.
So it was
Well, I think
enforcement.
some of it was definitely signage
Oh, yeah.
too. You know, so people understood that bikers have the rights to be in roads and they have a problem.
Matt, we can
Not the
replace
problem
those
is that
horse
bikers
carriage
don't.
tie-ups with bike racks,
Bikers should be able to
That'd be fine.
stand up, like-
right?
Yeah,
Then
it
we
freaked me
could
out.
simultaneously
I had to use
prevent people from parking on the sidewalks.
There you go. And for bikes,
And
there you go.
bikes there.
I'd like to see more bollards parallel to the street instead of being perpendicular to the street. I
Okay.
think when they're perpendicular, it makes where your bike is gonna potentially stick into a parking space, where if they're parallel, like up by Vanessa Noel or Vanessa Green, there's a couple there that are parallel to the street.
That's right, and
And
if
all the
there's-
others, because the bike racks
So
were
it's
shaped
angled
to be
saying,
perpendicular,
Mhm.
they put their bollards in.
That's a problem.
all
Well, and part of that
perpendicular.
was
Yeah,
Harvey
the bike is
because,
perpendicular to the curb line.
if they
So
run
the bike is supposed to
parallel
lay
and your
flat against
cars
it.
are parking on that side, you can't sort of get by or to get onto the sidewalk, so you park your car. But they work really well, like on the other side of Center Street, where there is no parking,
There are different
to run them, so where
variants.
those bike racks currently run perpendicular, and they stick the bikes way out, and sometimes they inch into the street where it's narrow there. If you have those parallel, no one's parking on that side, it makes perfect sense to run them
And different
parallel.
areas.
The other way,
Yeah.
the other way to do it though, the other way to do it though, is to go to the various businesses and ask for 4 feet into their property, like I did it, at Sheila's Yarn Shop. Because then the bollards are there, it's off the sidewalk, it's a You brick it, yeah, and it looks really good. And then,
Oh, that's right, that's a very, we should look at that,
Because
that's a great example.
because they've done it a little bit at the library.
Right.
Yeah, they've got the little thing, but that was because there was a bike rack there.
Yeah.
We should just push it a little more, like, and I think places would do that. If you said, hey, we want to extend the sidewalk by 4 feet to put the bike racks, up onto your property.
So there's more room for the pedestrians.
So the
to
pedestrians have more
pass.
space. I think a lot of businesses, a lot of those yards would do that, like they're doing for the roads. If you drive by Orange Street, 79 Orange, where my wife's shop is, we put a couple bollards and they're off the road a little bit. And the library has the same thing. They have some of their bollards back a little bit. I think you could get people to agree to give part of their land if they were being put in, so they wouldn't have to be on the sidewalk at all.
Yeah, and how nice again, with the idea that if you've got bike parking right in front of your store, then people are parking their bikes and saying, oh, look, that's a cute store, maybe I'll go in. So I think it should be an impetus.
And
in
there's
terms
not a
of
lot of them,
where
there's not a lot of spots downtown if you look at it or think about it, but there's a few.
But I agree, Harvey, it's nice to run someone in parallel, because it really makes a big difference in terms of the passage.
I think the first wave of the ones that went in replaced bike racks that were there. Across from the hub, there were bike racks, and they were like, well, let's put bollards there in the same
Yeah.
way. And so where a bike rack could have worked, they had 8 bollards or whatever. But where there's 1 or 2 bollards, I think it's awesome. There's just 1 or 2 here, 1 over there. They don't all need to be clustered.
Yeah, if you distribute them around, then people do it, because that's how people tie their bikes up to trees or to these street signs.
But that's been huge.
Because they're spread a little bit.
Since we did this application and got silver, that was definitely one of the things, was bike parking, which has improved quite a bit.
Yeah, so some good things did come out of it. It just
Yeah.
kind of spurred the conversation and gave us direction
Yeah.
on where the BPAC can be. We're advisory committee. Right? We don't go in and tell. We're just like, how can we help? How can we help Rob do something? How can we help? Select boards. I mean, technically it's in PDDC, but can we help roads right away with some of their stuff? Something that Mike needs an opinion on. We're always going to be the voices out there too, educating everyone.
Part of it would be helpful, and I haven't done an inventory, but if we went back to the sidewalk plan, sidewalk improvement plan. So, we're going up easy now, and we're coming down Broad, but if you look at South Water, all the side streets, and Federal and Center, that whole area really needs, it would be great to get input from this committee on suggested locations of bike racks, whether they're bollards or actual racks. As we start to look at doing sidewalk improvements, we're also looking at the street furniture, the trees, everything that's out there, the lighting, etc., so that when we put it back in somewhat of a uniform semblance. I think you still get a mix of opinions. We don't want everything to look exactly the same everywhere downtown. We want some uniqueness. So, I hate to just say, hey, we're going to put a bike bollard every 50 feet, but if it works out that it's 50-foot spaced, great. I'm just throwing it out, like, that would be good feedback to get before we even put a shovel in the ground out there.
We had an intern a few years ago who went around, remember Andrew, did you? And sort of looked at where there were areas, we had him circle around town that, where people tied up to trees and we used that to help us guide, but it might be interesting to pull that back out and see what areas that he came up with that weren't, unless you think that's not
Amazingly
useful.
enough, a lot of those areas were like around the town building, and you found like a nice spots. I think all those were kind of
Have
frowned
we used them
upon.
all?
No, I don't think they were really accepted locations. And now we've got Janet Schulte, and she's identified some areas around visitor services, and that's been okayed. Identifying areas of need is one thing, and everybody can agree on that. It's just where they're placed is.
Yeah, because he made a map up, didn't he? We had
Yeah,
his
he
map.
did, and I know another big area that had a lot of bikes sort of loosely stacked was down in its private property, which was NIR.
One
How about
area I've
Calvert
noticed
and Straight Wharf?
is behind town building. There's a huge green space back
Yeah.
there that's really not used at all. And there's bike racks down on the south water side near the parking for the sheriff building. But when you come up between the buildings up there where no one goes, I mean, that could really be a meaningful, massive bicycle parking lot.
You wouldn't have to advertise it, people would just find it.
Yeah.
The workers
Yep.
downtown.
It's a good idea.
So,
That's-
Yeah.
just to keep our meeting moving on, so I have to go here in a little bit, can we put this on the next agenda?
Yeah,
So-
I'm gonna try to grab some, if you have time between now and the next meeting, we'll try to sit down and maybe I'll come by your shop.
We'll sit down and go over the
Just a login.
bicycle friendly award thing.
Yeah.
But for this, can we put this on the agenda? As Rob asked, it would be helpful to find that old study. 'cause
Okay,
there's
I'll
prob-
do that.
Yeah.
Oh, bike collards, for bike collards.
Sorry, bike bollards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Find
bike-
that
yeah,
old study,
yeah,
that could be
yeah.
in the packet, we could look at it. And we could either meet downtown, that's where we could have our scheduled meeting, or we could do the research, go out on our own, look at it, and then come back and discuss here.
Well, yeah, if you wanted to meet downtown, we could probably use our conference room.
Should we be thinking about bike corrals as well, like at the bottom of Orange Street, or places that are no parking anyway? If you put put a place for a bunch of bikes, like basically a big playpen, is the island ready for something like that?
What do you mean, the bottom of Orange Street?
Well, the bottom, like if you're going up Orange,
Space.
if you're going up Orange Street, just on the right, there's a yellow line there. Like,
Okay, right.
if you could put something there, you could fit, 30 or 40 bikes in there. So if you think about it,
Center Street.
Orange going up the hill.
Main.
So how far off?
Yeah, so
further
see
down.
where I go,
It's
see
next
if
to
phase
Missile
1K, yeah, like,
Yeah.
right there, like,
From here
right
down,
there,
it's a
yeah,
yellow
if you
line.
did something right there, there's a yellow line.
Yeah.
If you had a corral right there, you could fit a ton of bikes, and it's a good location. But anyway, that's,
Well, that rack at the top where the cobblestones come in there, right there on the, near where our office is, that is overflowing all
It's
the time.
always
I hear
full.
people hit the cobblestones and they say, oh my God, I gotta get rid of my bike.
yeah.
So what do you guys think we should meet downtown and look at these places? And in the packet, you could find the study, because I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a couple
sure.
nuggets right there that we haven't.
Yeah, that where
taken
you,
care
well,
of.
and again, it'd be in the summer enough, so we would be able to see which ones are completely jammed up and around them where people are tied to other things that aren't bike racks.
I
Like
don't know how much
benches and those
space we
things.
could cover in a meeting downtown. It might be good between now and the next meeting to come up with ideas like, how about that for a corral, or how about this area for some bollards, or,
For efficiency's sake, that sounds
yeah.
better, because all of downtown's a lot, it would take,
Yeah.
we'd be out 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe in the fall, if we've come up with a few spots and we feel like we need to go look at
Yeah,
it.
one thing I'll throw out too, I've seen in other cities is you can actually take a couple parking spaces away and turn 2 parking spaces into a bike rack, during daytime hours. And then people come sweeping through at the end of the day and DPW removes them and they turn into parking spaces at night.
Oh, wow.
Again, just thinking, how do we get people to change modes, encourage places to be, on-street parking?
Yeah, and you pick up some good bikes for people who didn't take them off in time, too.
Absolutely.
Let's put that on the agenda for
Okay.
next month. And then,
Do you want to meet downtown next month in July?
I think, I like Harvey's suggestion of all of us doing our homework, coming up with, try to find 3 areas
Okay.
each, right, or ideas or something.
And we've looked at that. You have talked that one behind the town building for a while now.
Yeah, I've
So
always
that's-
thought,
Yeah,
because
that's, because it's just like you said.
It's empty
you're trying to
space
get
nobody's using.
There's one little rack in there right next to where the lady parks.
It's full right now.
It's full bikes,
Yep,
yeah.
it's all this morning. It's full.
So, Rob, don't get me wrong, I think that's a very good idea. So, and it's an inventive approach to, having more bike parking during the day, which is what we want. So,
We'll look at that, we'll look at, any other projects that come up. Do a report on Bicycle Friendly America, really what that entails, and how do we use that
Okay.
to help guide us
Yeah.
next year.
I think that will help inform the goals and objectives for the bike portion of the transportation plan. What do we need to be working on in order to get the silver platinum goal?
We could put the login and password in the meeting minutes.
Yep, we'll definitely put that in. Yep. It's I love DPW. Heart.
You haven't changed that yet?
That's good. Any other, last thing on the agenda is any other projects, want to chat about? I have one, but anybody else?
So I just was going to do an update on BHP.
Okay.
So, I've gotten draft reports from BHP laying out what would be needed, or sort of what their summary is for those two plans that we've looked at over this last year. So the immediate plan been sent, and that marking has all been done, so now we're dealing with what would be sort of, they think, a short-term solution, and then the longer-term solution. So a solution in kind of 3 to 5 years, and a solution in, 5 to 10 years, 8 to 10 years, when some of those life estates and different things have come to fruition, and you might be able to actually put that in there. So I'm in the process of looking at them, giving a little bit of feedback. Jack is out of town until the 26th, but hopefully, maybe either by July or August, and maybe July, I could circulate them around. We could take a look at them and see if anyone has any feedback on them before we get them finalized. And so they just, and then they're just setting up for the next stages, which would be surveys and maybe design, which is something that we at Dominion are interested in continuing to push forward. So I'd love to talk with you, outside of this meeting about budgets and stuff like that.
Sure, absolutely.
And I just thought of the side thing. I don't know could be the answer, Rob, but is there any more markings going down on the Washington Francis Street extension, getting bikes over, or is that what it is? A crosswalk or bikes for this
Well,
way?
there's supposed to be a crosswalk, right?
I'm sure it's in the queue.
Except for the pedestrian location, which is down on Candle, I believe that we would, but there was talk of, Mike and I have been looking at what was gonna happen at the NISDA property.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's only when,
Green, that's the green
Because
thing.
VHB, didn't they come up with some?
the difference, there's a different, thing to talk about there. So it's meter, so there's a sign at meter that
Right.
talks about the bike path, going forward. There is a crosswalk here.
But it's very faded at this point.
It hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
It's really faded.
Yeah.
Or it was never there, but I thought it was there, but it's just really faded.
I can't remember, we had talked about, but Sharrows are, I can't remember.
I thought there were, and there's a sign for the bike, there's a sign for the bike, I think bike lanes there, so there's one Sharrow marking. They were supposed, I'm not sure they were gonna do the green lanes. I think they talked about, in one plan I saw, actually doing the bikes in green, so people really saw them.
That's what they
But-
were talking about.
Yeah, that's what they were talking, but there's a great sign here. There is a sign which, when you're in your car, maybe isn't as visible as when you're on your bike.
No, I've seen it,
That
yeah.
really talks about yielding for the cars because the bikers are going straight. Now, again, I've looked at it a million times and I saw it on the plan, so I'm looking for it. Have you taken bike tours by? Does it seem effective?
It's okay. I know
It's
that
okay.
Some bike tours are different, because I know what I'm doing. I'm
And you're
controlling
telling
it.
them what to do,
I know what
yeah.
to do, I know the area. But I drive this area a couple times a day, and I always see people continuing on truck route. And so I think that might be a way we can help it, try to figure out.
Kind of going straight.
So
With-
do we
with
need to put a
paint.
much bigger, like a Sharrow right there that goes straight, or somewhere else, like right in the middle there to move them along?
So I think the crosswalk will help.
Mhm.
The signage, okay. This is supposed to be the, sort of the navigator, right? When you get to this point, when you get to each one of these, you're looking for the next one.
Mhm.
And you pass this one, you see the sign, plus you see this.
Yeah.
That's the guidebook, and you see these two as the return. So it's sort of, and there's a sign here as well,
Yeah, that green
Yeah.
A little
sign
green
is very
bike route
helpful.
sign,
right?
yeah.
And actually, I think someone's actually put those, some extraordinary person put some small little
Yeah,
navigational
no,
signs,
if only they could be smaller.
right? So the point is that I think with this crosswalk, it should help a little bit more.
Yeah.
More to what Mike and I have been talking about beyond that is when the NISDA property transacts, the curve is gonna change and come through where these buildings used to be,
Mhm.
which is gonna turn Francis and Washington into sort of a seamless movement. And then Washington Street Extension would come in and curve and tee in.
So what
there's
does
a-
that do to the bikers?
So that's a stop condition, so we need a left turn lane for the bikes. Or a
Mhm.
left turn lane for anybody, actually, who's gonna be turning on to Washington Street Extension.
That's
Oh,
what-
so it becomes a,
That could be
but,
your prototype for the first green lane, a green painted lane, that would be.
so you would have to get, the bikers would have to be brave and get themselves left Like if
Well,
you're like.
I mean, they basically have to come into, we have it mocked up already. You have a
But
concept
you
here.
have to get off hugging the curb and get in more into the road, right?
Oh, yeah, you're occupying the lane, and then you're actually going to that left side in that protected area.
I agree, Harvey, that'd be a great
how
place
do
to
you
try to
make it
green paint,
Where
because
it's
that's a
clear
little
to
tricky.
everybody that they can be in the middle of the road rather than, I take it this is the meter cottages that have been.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you make it so that you can feed them in safely? Is that where you're thinking of having a green lane? Is that possible?
Or something creative that
Right.
Yeah.
visually you don't have to think. Because when you're on the bike, you have cars around you, trucks, you get nervous, and assuming you don't know the area, right? So you have to really
And the
think.
trucks are big on that.
Even when you know it, these guys, they think that you shouldn't even be on the road. They don't believe that the road is.
Let alone in the middle of the
In the
lane.
middle of the road, you're
Yeah.
in the middle of the road,
People shouting
you get
at you for
beeped at and yelled at.
I was staggered.
So I train my bike tour guides if we're on this, once they have to pay attention, and once if they see somebody getting close, they put their left turn signal on. They go like this, and they get in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And they don't allow anybody to pass them. No one's
Yeah.
gonna run around them once you get.
And do you have to block Francis a bit too, or is that not as bad?
No, usually
Well, they
they
have
just
that
go right
stop sign,
across.
that helps.
Yeah.
But you gotta be an experienced cyclist to say, I'm gonna take the lane. You know, I
Right.
do it, I know, my
Yeah.
wife won't ride with me because she won't do it. I'm like, Ellen, look, cars are going slow here, there's a stop sign coming up, we're not gonna hug the curb and get past. We're gonna take that lane, but you gotta be,
But we can do it, we're experienced, we know the area, so how do we paint here?
Yeah,
let
because
everybody
people hug the
know?
lane, and then how do you, then suddenly you've got a truck on one, you're on the lane, you're supposed to go straight, and that guy's trying to turn right, it's just,
In this scenario, I would say the majority of bikers would probably stop and get off and walk across the crosswalk, then get back on and go. It's not ideal, certainly.
that's interesting, so that being
I'd rather do
painted
that.
and really noticeable will be helpful.
Definitely.
So for now,
That's the green
these
field.
sharrows have come in, the signage is on that corner, and so that crosswalk is gonna get repainted soon, is that part of it? The white paint? That would help a lot for this season.
Yeah.
Side note, could everybody take a look at the other entrance into this and see, and give suggestions, maybe we can talk about it next time. So I see people who are riding, really looking around, very attentive, go right past, taking the right into Spruce Street.
I think it's better than it was.
I think the
That's-
sharrows that
the-
just came in will help.
Well, I noticed the same
But I see
thing.
it happen every day, they go right by it, now they're in the truck route.
So, yeah, it's not East Creek, it's,
I think we should get a Spruce Street.
So what I've noticed a difference, these two painted pieces made a difference, but keep in mind they're not the correct size, the ones that have been installed.
Exactly, they're very small.
So what I'm seeing is people coming up, stopping, and now if they were intending to, because a lot of them saw this as a lane to go in, now they see the arrow coming at them and they're like, whoa, maybe this isn't the right, and then they see, if they look around, they see this. And now they're like, okay, now I'm supposed to go over
I think
there.
that's been effective.
I think so.
So you mean
I'm
outbound, but are you
talking
talking about
Coming
inbound?
this way.
Inbound, yeah,
straight through.
missing the turn.
They missed the turn.
It's so funny because I thought once that little green bike route sign went in, they would do it. But this was interesting. Melissa and I were talking about it in the office the other day. So you've got the big fluorescent triangular sign that says pedestrian. So you've got the one back here that warns you there's pedestrian and biking coming. Then you've got a big
This one here.
triangular sign that says pedestrian,
Yeah.
and right under it is a rectangular sign that says same fluorescent yellow that says an arrow pointing it down at the crosswalk. And underneath that one is the bike one that says to the right. So I can see someone going like,
Yeah.
wait a second, do I stay straight or do it like they're dueling arrows.
So-
Could you get rid of that one arrow that's pointing down at the pedestrian crosswalk and just have it be pedestrian, people know a crosswalk, and then turn in
The challenge
for the
is,
thing?
and I totally
So
understand
yeah,
what you're
because
saying.
that's the one, yeah.
Right, so this symbol is required MUTC signage
Right.
for a crosswalk.
Oh,
But I
God,
think,
okay.
I think what was missed here is that oftentimes, for good reason, Ray consolidates onto a single post,
Yes,
right? And so what you're seeing, and I think
because it's
what-
over
what-
here.
I think
It's
what we're all
before.
seeing, this sign is supposed to be the sign that directs people, and I think this sign is supposed to be directing people, these two directing people to and from.
And they're all on the
Goose Pond,
same
So we
post.
can move the bike routes.
And they're all here on this one, so we should be able to relocate it.
What about?
That would be
because
great, because I think I think maybe people are confused.
There's a Sharrow here, which is really good.
No,
Is
that's
there-
not a share, that's a bike.
That's a bike lane.
Bike directional,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Is there a way to have one here that points to the right? Another visual to get bikes to go here? We
Or
really
on the
don't want,
ground.
we don't want any bikes going this direction.
No,
No one's
Well,
trying
unless
to.
they're going to Cumbies, I guess, or.
Then, but a tourist isn't,
Yeah.
I'm talking about someone who doesn't know the area. We're not trying to go to Cummings.
Well, we could put a Sharrow, the problem with
Not
this.
Sharrow, directional.
I know, the problem with this symbol over here is there's no bike lane. These are exclusive bike lane symbols.
Could it be a bike and a little arrow that goes?
right before you turn in,
A bike and an arrow that goes like that?
That's what I'm thinking.
like right before you turn in. So if you're looking at the
That's what I'm
ground,
thinking. That'd probably be a right turn lane, a right turn arrow
on the ground.
with the bike ahead of
Because
it.
I think people are like, oh, I'm supposed to be here, this is good, right?
Yep.
And then.
All of a
I'm
sudden,
supposed
like, what the
to
hell
go
just
straight.
happened?
So like, we're almost there. I thought it would work.
The other way to
Yeah,
think
with the
about it
green-
is,
with the green sign.
this is more specific to, have you been trained on what to look for if you're a bike rider? If a merge to a Sharrow lane would be a dashed ending to the bike lane, for instance, here, right here, right? This one here actually dashes out the end here at Hatches. The tail end of this hatches out.
And it becomes a Sharrow.
Becomes a Sharrow right at the pumps.
The other thing is this the beginning of the bike lane? Where's the route across? Where,
It's not
at the-
shown on these plans.
Okay, but it's the beginning of the,
Beginning of-
yeah, so at the beginning of the
yeah.
path, there are the
Yeah.
two signs that say no motor vehicles. But again, I think as you're going, and I'm looking for it when I'm driving, so I'm going faster than I would on a bike. But right now, if it's confusing anyway, and you turn down here and you go, wait a second, where's my green bike route sign? So I know that they said that one's supposed to be put at the beginning of that bike path.
Okay.
Because I asked specifically for it, because I said,
Yeah, there
all
is-
you see
there's
is no,
one at the
all
street.
you see
You
is
mean
no
that-
motor vehicle. So if
Yeah.
you make that turn into Goose Pond Lane, and suddenly you're like, okay, where's my green bike route? So I must be wrong, let me go back out.
Yeah, it's a
No, you
bike
don't.
route sign.
It needs to be a bike route sign, and it's
There's
not
one-
been put up there yet. I
Okay.
mean, at least as of this morning when I looked for it. So I was just thinking, again, that's one more hint to, if you put the right arrow, and then you say, oh, look, and there's the green sign, I am on the right path.
I know there's some funding out there to get rid of all these cattails to open up this area, so visually you can see.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the application.
Well, that's coming in time.
Oh, we
So
talked about it
funding at
before you
CPC,
did.
yeah.
Concert Springs, the
No, I was
bridge
joking.
reboot.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
good.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But how good would it be if you
Yeah,
pulled up
send an
here, you
email
can
and say,
see
ask
the
us
bike
for
path
money.
will.
from here, right? If you saw
See,
the
if
bike
you saw
path.
the bike sign
There's too
and you
much.
saw it, yeah, but then it
There's too
would
much
help.
stuff.
Has BPAC talked about motorized bikes?
Not yet,
Or assisted?
but I know.
Because this whole discussion about no motor vehicles,
Right.
just brought that to light.
The people
There's
with
someone that plows
mopeds.
down Center Street every day when I'm going to work, on his way to work,
Six
on a
wheelers.
motorized thing, it goes so fast.
That's
Yeah.
been asked to me. The guidance that I give is that it can't be faster than 25 miles an hour because that's kind of the speed limit for bike paths, or at least that's what bike paths are designed for, maximum speed of 25 miles an hour. The electric assist bike that I saw recently,
What did,
went to topped out at
Tobias
29 miles an hour, so
I
it's
thought
not
it was
fast.
An electric bike is a motorized vehicle, and so technically, the state of Massachusetts, they're not allowed on bike paths.
Yeah.
How would we ever enforce it?
But how fast did Tobias, didn't he say that there's like specific governors on those?
29 was his $4,500 bike. That went 29 miles an hour.
Fast on the bike.
And that's
That is fast on a bike.
And the clients that come to me are, this would be great for my elderly father,
Yeah.
who wants to
Yeah.
continue getting exercise.
Actually, I've heard that argument a lot.
Yeah, great, let's get him
Maybe
on a
we
bike
can
going
replace
30
those
miles an hour
motorized-
because he's losing his balance. I mean, I want him to still be able to get exercise and stuff.
Have you ridden it? I topped out at about 17, 18. I thought it was flying.
That is
on the road.
fine.
I rode
Yeah,
Tobias
it's fine.
this week, and I
Try it
got,
on the Mattocket bike path.
I got
on
the
some of
20,
those turns.
22 like that, and I was only level 4.
You're a lot more fit than I
Oh, they're
am.
coming.
You know, can you send away to the manufacturer to like take the governor off the motor?
Just go on Google to figure out how to do that.
So I want to interrupt and make an important point because it makes me very nervous. When you start off on the Nantucket bike path, about 250 yards down, there's that very tall hedge where
On the curve?
Yes.
It's always been terrible.
And we've got to be able to do something.
There's been accidents there.
Of course, you know,
I've seen one.
and you can easily be forced out into the traffic that is coming your way.
So where is this, right at the Quaker Cemetery?
No,
200
no,
yards down.
it's out toward the MSPCA,
Okay.
Crooked Lane.
It's not even that far down.
No, it isn't that far.
Okay, so not too far from the start
So
line.
Nantucket bike
Yeah.
path, when you start off, is aligned right next to the road.
Exactly.
The first time you veer off to the left, right before the bamboo forest.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
come down, that first corner, there's hedges and stuff
Yeah,
everywhere.
And there's no visibility whatsoever.
Oh,
we
so
know
you
the right
can't see
way
the
is.
cars
No,
with their
you
bikes
can't.
coming the other way?
You can't,
No.
and so you often
Do we know
have,
what the right of way is there?
Where exactly?
Let's bring it up.
Let's bring it
Yeah.
up.
I love this screen.
So while we're doing this, can I get an approval of the minutes that are in the packet? All those in favor?
Second. Aye.
All right, that's good. There's no other business. Let's do the last thing, and then we gotta run.
We're gonna have an executive session.
I'm gonna see you tonight. That's all right, I'm gonna see you tonight.
You coming in?
Right at the
Yeah, we
beginning.
got,
Before
Oh,
June's
nice.
even, I think maybe just after June's. Keep going down,
Yeah,
keep
it's
going,
good.
a
There's
little
a
more.
bunch of questions.
It's down in this area?
No, keep going.
it's beyond you, so
Yeah.
keep on going.
Where it curves in, right where
We'll
it
be
curves.
there.
You'll see it. It's the first
We
real
got a nice
anomaly in
packet
the
to
path.
you.
Yep,
Oh, it's right here?
right there.
Yep.
Yeah, right,
At the
right
first
down
part.
here. There we go. So this hedge here, you can't see anything at all. So if you're coming along on this side here, you've got traffic coming that way. No one coming here can see that. I more or less stop to where I walk practically, and I put a bell on my bike to
that's
make
good.
sure that people know I'm coming. And I'm amazed that nobody's actually been forced out
Because
into
if
the
people
road.
are riding double or anything the
Yeah.
other way, you're
Yeah, and
screwed.
they often
Yeah.
are with
So
children.
Ian, on bike tours, I slow down my tour, and I go ahead and I check it before they get too
Right,
close.
but
So I can maneuver
Because
around.
it's a profile change too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
it is.
I'm curious how that ever came to be as far as cutting that driveway in half. That seems like, Mike, you might know.
Back in the
better.
80s, yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh, you mean going across the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, right there.
and often
Yeah.
there's no
Like
car
Jeep, it's all
park
sitting
where
there.
it's
Because the
actually on the
solution,
bike
With the
path.
I looked at this and to me, it looks like you could, if you could
Yeah.
continue the path to here,
That would be smart.
and then.
That would be
transition
much
it.
smarter. That would be much
Oh,
smarter.
yeah, now
Oh,
it's
yeah,
here.
look, he looks like he's been at the beach or something in his shorts.
Yeah, he had an important appointment.
Yeah, an important appointment.
All right, meeting adjourned.
But Ian, why don't we, like you and I,
But
try
that
to
is so
keep
interesting.
on that. I
Okay.
mean, you can even put
Like,
something in, since it's the DPW, get it in the
Yeah.
queue when they could take care of it, even just
That'd be great.
I don't even know what the options
I
are.
would even, honestly, I would probably, might even be something that we could talk about at the traffic safety board. As like,
When is that?
safety
When's the
improvement.
next one?
Tomorrow to 10:30, at the town building.
Maybe if you have time to stop in.
Yeah, I will.
I would just say,
You
hey,
do that?
can you
Yeah, I
add this,
will.
can you add this to the next agenda?
Yeah.
Bring it
Okay,
to
I'll do
people's
that.
awareness.
All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll see you in an hour.
Pretty big one. Yeah.
I'll be watching on TV.
I know, I saw you walking your baby the other day. So, you guys strolling on, I know, it's so great.
Because we were talking about doing exercise guy down
I can't run my bike anymore, so.
Oh my
I know,
God,
it's
what,
wild.
what'd you do?
My 5th minute practice, I got a big track.
You broke your, how'd you do that?
Probably just running on it for years and years.
So what do you, so the only cure is just like total rest? Or you have to have an operation?
10 weeks in the cast.
Talking about what I'm probably $30,000.
Oh my gracious. Oh my gracious, that's so.
Are we landing?
Yeah, you wish it was your work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. I met with Tobias back there last week. It's like it's in-town headquarters.
Yeah.
Melissa and I, it's like, let's go to the back road.
Does he have the electric car thing in there? Yeah?
No, he's got a couple of weeks still going.
Tesla's already down for
Fun
Tesla.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film festival behind the Greenland.
Last year we had one in the Handlebar Park.
Oh, all right.
Have,
All right, I'll see you.
Bye.
All
See you in a bit.
The hood open, and the hood is pretty much storage. There's no-
I'm very
there's
back
no
up with
underneath.
Paul on the bus
Yeah,
shelter.
two trunks, pretty much. So-
Oh, that's on there.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah, look and see, yeah. So weird, just to give you heads up, so she emails me this
Just not gonna see them on there. That was cool. I stopped in and they were slapping them on the wall and
Yeah.
flying all around.
She's been
That
talking
stuff's
to
kinda
the
nice.
house.
Oh, yeah.
They own the
Hey,
little
thanks for
triangle
being
place.
with us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Mike, don't get your sunglasses.
Oh, those aren't mine.
Oh.
I thought those were yours.
So Cape Cod 5 owns that triangle where there was talk about the land bank and Mariah Mitchell and moving the front part of that little the old aquarium and making it a cute little, like, you know, where the old railroad used to be
Yeah.
out there. Well, apparently, I mean, no one, the guy at Cape Cod 5 knew nothing about it, who does this sort of community stuff. I talked to Aaron Savetsky and he was like, that, you know, we've swapped with them, so we don't really care what they do with the, you know, the building. And as long, until there's a place to build or they have the money to build a new aquarium, which won't be for a while, it's not happening. So Lee Saperstein jumps in and we think it should be the railroad, because the old railroad used to go along there and be perfect and so Paul writes back what I think is a perfect email, like, you know, we've been talking about this, even if this is to happen down the road, this is a great good location, across from the Stop and Shop, you're on buses, it'll be helpful.
Absolutely.
Well, our impression was that that's no longer in discussion. He weighs back in. Yeah, he weighs back in and say, oh, it's very active, it's still in discussion. So my guess is he'll be there tonight, making the conversation a bit more interesting. And
Or maybe not. I think he was going to try to go to a meeting on Thursday, and he says, maybe tomorrow, or maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, and so we'll
He was
just.
here yesterday, but I don't know if he's here today. Definitely not tomorrow.
Yeah, and so who knows? And not that, because I do think the Cape Cod people are perfectly comfortable with their private property with the idea of a shelter being built.
Something because they're required to do something up there.
I think there's, exactly, I think they have a, well, no, but I think they think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, and so Emeritus has, put together like 3 or 4 designs.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm gonna be back in my office before select board. Well, you'll see, it's in their packet.
Yeah.
We sent the
We're going to
designs.
go tonight anyway, so I'll have to show up.
Yeah, that'll be up on the screen. I got it all. All right,
So
bye.
if you read our class,
Tomorrow, I'm teaching. I love doing it.
teaching with fire alarm safety.
No, the mental health first aid.
Oh.
And I love doing this because
Oh my gosh, because you change everything. When is this not going to be available? This room.
it's always available.
We were told to start thinking about new locations to have meetings if you depend on having meetings in this space, because it won't be available after a while.
Oh, maybe because they're thinking that with the fire department moving in or the construction, it might be closed?
Maybe during construction, but definitely afterwards.
Huh, I hadn't heard.
No?
But they
Okay.
probably want to,
Maybe that'll get changed or something, I don't know.
yeah, the chief is always, he's done a
Do you
great-
really have that many classes? Fire, public safety? I'm sure you do have a lot. I just don't know if it was that many.
No, we don't. The summertime, we have the kids for the week.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a novelty because it's an 8-hour training that I'm doing. Anytime a member of this department does a training, that bumps anyone else out.
Yeah.
But maybe with the 2 fire department, with the 2 public safeties, I don't know. The chief must have a plan, but I know that his argument has always been that this is a public building, and so anytime it's available, I don't want the public to use it. So I don't know what's changed. And
Okay.
he's not here till July 3rd, so.
Okay. He's away till July 3rd? Okay.
I think it's mother-in-law house, so. It's legit.
Well, I spoke to the school committee last night about the roundabout projects and stuff. I don't know if you've heard anything from anybody about roundabout projects, but
Oh, I've heard a multitude of things.
from different people asking your opinion, or
Not asking me my opinion, just.
letting you know their opinion?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I heard McGrady was relentless last time.
He had a lot of material. I don't know if I bought a lot of it. He definitely didn't give me copies. I think he gave it to Mike Kozor, maybe,
Yeah.
or to Tim Ledring. But I think it was just presenting what I thought were best practices, and he's saying, I just don't subscribe to that, and say, okay, agree to disagree.
Well, he's also been out of the picture for 20 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah. The Joe crossing guard.
Yeah.
What the hell is his name?
Tornay.
Tornay. He was there and spoke in favor of it. He was really the only one who spoke up in favor, but I know there's a couple of other people scattered in the crowd that weren't necessarily against the projects. They thought it was great.
I mean, it's happening. So
Yeah.
it's happening.
Contribute or get out of the way, huh?
You know, we don't need another one, but yet you do.
Yeah.
And do they work? Yeah, except the big one, and the big one doesn't work, so it's not a legit rotary.
Yeah.
Give a stop sign.
That's not,
Screws everyone up.
not big enough.
So, I don't know.
What are you going to do?
Anything's better than nothing. So,
All right.
sorry, Mr.
Yeah. Margarita, everything went well with Margarita?
I met with the board. They want me to go on the board.
Oh, good for you.
It is, because it's like a very good organization that does good work, and it's not like a single focus.
Is that like a personal thing, or can you do it in work capacity?
Don't know.
Okay.
But so everything else I do, it's work capacity.
Yeah, I came to Rotary Club on my time, and I think I made that clear.
Oh, really?
But I do talk a lot of work on that Rotary.
No, everything I do through the chief's approval.
Okay.
So I don't think he'll approve me joining another one until I get off of one,
Gotcha.
because I'm just stretched so thin. But
Yeah.
we'll see. It would be a good personal experience for me, I think, though, because they have so many connections. And
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're not focused on one thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not suicide, it's not mental health, it's
So all the charities that go in their share support or funding support or
Yeah.
the accounting part of it.
And then you ask yourself, well, what is the problem that the community sees today? So it could be homeless next week, it could be whatever. So that's just kind of cool to have that option.
Yeah. One thing that just spoke to me last night, people were talking about a lot of bike pedestrian crashes that they hear about talking to hospital staff, but aren't necessarily advertised. Do you guys get? I'm sure you know what there's like a
Bicycles?
yeah, just a bike that somebody bikes out and like is
I mean, maybe, but nothing serious.
hit by a car type of thing. You did?
I didn't.
Do they have a light? That'll happen.
So the cruiser on Washington Street turning on Francis,
Yeah.
and flips his lights on to go catch someone.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to pull a 180 there, and he pulled down Francis, he lights on, swung around, and the bicyclist was right on his ass, just boom, right up. Like, oh my God. Whoops. I was right behind him, I saw the whole thing, I was like, son of a bitch, that's gonna be painful.
Is that a lot of paperwork?
Yeah, it's accident report, incident report, you gotta call Gibson, and it's the whole to-do.
Yeah.
And then the kid was a jerk. You don't need to know my name. I really don't want to know it, but I kind of need to know since you hit a cruiser. And you just ended up riding into the sunset. I know there is, but
So obviously it wasn't her.
no. But that's the big thing. Well, what if he comes back 2 days later? Say, well, don't mind.
I could use that payday. You want to like drive over me with the car or something?
I mean, he got his lights on, but realistically, it's a horrible intersection to pull one of the,
What would you do?
my opinion, that was horrible. I defended him, he's my cop. But
Yeah.
what were you going after the car for? You know, it's not like it was a domestic problem, it was a fight, you ran a plate and saw that someone was no license. Okay? No.
Live and learn, right? Call that experience.
Yeah. Shock went up there.
Yeah. I'm sure I will be.
See, this is what it's supposed to look like, training.
You can't have a meeting like this.
You can. I love it.
Have 10 people.
I'll be done at 5 o'clock. It'll be a 6 o'clock meeting tomorrow night. And I'll put it all. I'm not good at that. It's our room. You're our guest.
The ACC or Concom? Well, ACC Thursday night.
I'm not sure. 6 o'clock at side stuff.
I think that is ACC. Oh well, give it to him. Take it easy.
See ya.
better, I cannot tell. I've offered thee for gold, I shall not. To remain as I am is impossible. I must.
Hmm.